Your station, 101 FM, with Saturday Sports Scene.
Good morning and welcome to Sports Scene again for another week. An exciting morning here for us on Sports Scene. We've got a very special guest coming up very shortly in about 10 minutes' time. Chairman of Selectors for the Queensland State of Origin team, Des Morris, will be joining us. With the team being announced on Monday, it's something we're very excited about to be talking to him. So big thanks to Des for being on the show. He'll be with us shortly. I'm Kevin Braysher. Welcome to the show once again on 101 FM. Joining me with the panel this morning, Mr. Darren Madigan. Darren, welcome to the show.
Good morning, everybody. Another big week in sport, another huge weekend in front of the telly this weekend. And the last couple of weeks, it's all good news this week too. I'm not the purveyor of doom as I've been the last few Saturday mornings. Nobody's died in sport that I can speak about, which is great. But the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about retirements of some of the greats of all time in Alex Ferguson and David Beckham. Well, we did forget one other person because he slipped through under the radar, and he's been a one-club player. He plays for Liverpool, one of the great defenders of all time, 737 appearances for Liverpool. He's a one-club man. His name is Jamie Carragher, and his career came to an end last weekend. So to all those Liverpool fans out there, and I'm one of them, good luck in your retirement, mate. Apparently, as soon as he pretty much walked off the field, he signed a deal with, I think, Sky Sports over there to become pundit in the commentary booth. So it doesn't take him long, does it?
It never does, mate. You see that a lot. A lot of guys walk straight off the field into the commentary box. It feels like that's how it goes. Also joining us on the panel today from the QRL, Mr. Ethan James. Ethan, welcome to Sports Scene again.
Morning, Kev. Good to be here as per usual. Another big show on the cards.
Absolutely. It's an exciting one this morning, getting Des Morris on. State of Origin, it's so close now, only a few days, a week and a half away now. So, what are you looking forward to most about State of Origin this year?
Oh, what isn't there to look forward to, Kev? It's the best rugby league going around. 3 matches. I can't wait, to be honest.
Yeah, everything about it. It's the best time of year. For a rugby league supporter, it's Christmas pretty much. Also joining us, he's back. He's been away the last couple of weeks, but he's back with us at the panel. He's AFL Queensland Hall of Famer from the Southport Sharks, Mr. Craig Crowley. Craig, welcome back to the studio. We missed you.
Oh, that's great. Great to know. Look, it's just not rugby league people are looking forward to this time of the year. It's, I think the whole sporting community are really looking forward to the rugby league State of Origin. I know the AFL people and the AFL community really look forward to this time of the year. It's a great time.
Absolutely. We'll get through all the results here on Sports Scene. Before we kick on with the rest of the show, it's a big show today, so stay with us. For the NRL last night, round 11 got underway. It was a tough night for us Queenslanders, talking about some State of Origin type stuff. The Broncos and the Cowboys both going down. The Bulldogs 24-14 over the Broncos at ANZ Stadium. The Tigers snapped a 7-game losing streak, 22-20 over the Cowboys. A last-minute try getting them home in that. In the AFL round 9 last night, Sydney, in what was supposed to be a close game, that turned out a big win over Collingwood, 15-12, 102-87, 55 at the MCG. Craig, surely you thought it was going to be closer than that.
Well, yeah, I did, honestly. You just don't know with these sort of sides. AFL's so close, and it's so much. Yeah. It's rebound footy. Anything can happen from time to time. The lower sides are being more competitive now, as well as the top sides blowing each other apart. So, yeah, week to week, it's you don't know what's going to come up, but you do see the good sides come to the top.
And the defending Premier Sydney, definitely one of those good sides. A big performance by them last night. And the Super 15 last night, the Chiefs getting up over the Crusaders 28-19. A good game of footy, that one. And the Melbourne Rebels, their first win over the Waratahs at home, 24-22. That was a great upset there. The Rebels coming up with a few really good wins in recent weeks. They're really coming on for Melbourne Rugby down there in Victoria. Darren, we've got some other results from around the world.
Yeah, believe it or not, they like to get a little bit of practice in before Roland Garros. There is tennis going on in Germany. On the clay, of course, that wouldn't be on anything else. The Power Horse Cup in Dusseldorf, and the 2 finalists to be playing there today will be Juan Monaco and also Jarko Nieminen up against one another. The girls' semi-finals have been decided there in Brussels for the Brussels Open, and it'll be Aprandi playing Peng, and Kanepi will be playing Hampton in the other semi-final there. And don't forget, Roland Garros kicks off tomorrow as well. As far as the golf is concerned, with the men, the Crown Plaza Invitational Worth in Texas. Seems like everything's going on in Texas at the moment. Graham Delat has scored a second round 67 to go with his first round 64 to lead the tournament at 9 under. Fair way down before you get to Mark Leishman. That name just keeps appearing again. Tied for 14th. He's 5 under. He's through 8 holes at the moment. 1 under for this round after a first round 66. Best after that, tied for 36, is Greg Chalmers. As far as the girls are concerned, strange things going on in the Bahamas at the moment. Some terrible weather, so they've decided to play a shortened first round of 12 holes. And the leader there is Heather Bowie-Young, and best Australian there is Catherine Hull-Kirk, tied for 24th. And basically, they're waiting to see how they go with some of these other holes, getting them dry, and they're going to figure it out as they go along. Have you ever heard that in professional sport before? That's a newie. As far as the basketball's concerned, we are into the conference finals. Miami are playing Indiana. They're 1 up at the moment, and the other one, we've got the Memphis Grizzlies. They haven't got the ledger going yet. San Antonio 2-0 up against them. The winner of those 2 series will play off in the NBA conference finals. Telling the Giro d'Italia, we have Cadel Evans is currently second at the moment, 4 minutes behind with only the 2 stages left. So you would think with Vincenzo Nibali well and truly leading that for Astana, that's pretty much the way it'll probably stay. I think Cadel Evans is going to be fighting Uran from Team Sky. There's only 10 seconds in it between them 2 at the moment. DeLuca, who came 10th in the last stage, has actually been banned. He got done for EPO overnight as well. You would think these guys just would learn somewhere along the line, wouldn't you? But that's basically your overnight in sport. But very disappointed to hear another cyclist getting banned for EPO, Kevin.
It is tough to hear, and it's something, like you say, you'd think they'd start to learn. You hear it all too often with that sport, and, you know, sport in general, it's something that's, of course, been clouding over Australian sport all of this year, and something you wish that just wasn't there, but sometimes you've got to accept the harsh realities that some players will be doing that. Big show planned for you here today on SportzScene. 9 o'clock, we're going to get the operations officer for the NEFL, Craig Miller. He's been on the show a few times before. We're going to get him on board, talk all through the wash-up from the rep games. Craig, there's a player who has been called up and got a big call from the rep games and a big performance.
Yeah, look, the guy who won the Zone Total Medal, which is the best on ground in our state games, a guy called Sam Michael has been on the rookie list, has been elevated, and we'll talk to Craig about that, about how our process is working through state football. Absolutely, and we're about almost halfway through the NEFL season for this year, and we'll have a good chat about all those things with Craig Miller at 9 o'clock. As we say, after the first break here, very shortly, we're going to get Des Morris, the chairman of selectors for the Queensland Maroons State of Origin side. He'll be on the phone to talk us through all things State of Origin. We're really looking forward to that. If you want to get in contact with us here on SportzScene, we are on social media. Head to facebook.com/SportzScene, SportzScene, or youtube.com/SportzScene, SportzScene. We're also on Twitter at SportzScene. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we get Des Morris on the phone to talk through State of Origin 2013. Stay with us. Welcome back to SportzScene here on 101 FM. It is 16 minutes past 8. Kevin Braysher here along with Craig Crowley, Ethan James and Darren Madigan. And joining us on the line, he is the chairman of selectors for the Queensland Maroons and ahead of the team announcement on Monday. He's here to talk to us about all things State of Origin. Des Morris, a big welcome to the show here on SportzScene.
Hey, good morning.
Yeah, thanks very much for being here with us, mate. We will ask you about the upcoming State of Origin series in a minute, but before we get to that, I'd like to just take us back. 2006, Queensland was staring down the barrel of 4 straight Origin defeats. You guys were bold in picking a whole bunch of young players to make up the nucleus of that side. Guys like Greg Inglis, Sam Thaiday, Cameron Smith. These were the guys to take it forward. At that time, did you have an inkling of just how special this group of players was going to become?
Well, we always knew they were very good players, but, it's a different arena for a lot of people, and, fortunately, they and obviously in Melbourne English, and, it's worked out very well for us since.
Looking at this series, Des, Petro Sivanasiva's retired since the series last year, and it doesn't look like you'll have Benny Hannett there with injury as well. Who are some of the props that you're looking at to fill those spots there?
Well, we're fairly fortunate with Matty Scott, obviously. David Shillings has always performed well for us at Origin level, and with Sam Thaiday, Nate Miles playing prop for their clubs at present. We've also got, Martin Kennedy, Josh Maguire. So, Jacob Lillyman, we've got quite a range of players to be able to move around and to pick from. So, while it's disappointing from Ben's point of view, it's certainly not dire straits for us, and we've got plenty of talent there that I'm sure, given the opportunity, will step up and do the job for us.
You mentioned a lot of good, talented players there, Des, but another guy who's played a fair bit of Origin in recent years is Dave Taylor. He's been under a fair bit of criticism this year. What are your thoughts on the way Dave's been playing this season?
No, well, obviously Dave's a rare talent, actually, but he's had his good games and his ordinary games, I suppose. But he's certainly going to, he's sort of considered more a back row at this stage. Where obviously he could end up at the front eventually, or Mal might decide to use him as a front rower at some stage. But his form has been okay. But it's going to be fairly competitive to get into that squad. To be honest, we've got a lot of players that are hitting form, and I'm sure that if Dave was given the opportunity, he'd do a great job for us.
Absolutely. Another guy, a guy who's done a lot of really good jobs for Queensland in recent years is Ash Harrison. He's under an injury cloud this weekend. Are you expecting him to be available for Origin 1?
We'll get our report before we pick the team from the doctors. And I'm sure if Ash is anywhere near right, he'll be taken into consideration because of the effort he's put in for us over the last few years. So I expect that he'll be okay. I haven't had any negative reports at this stage. I just said that the other day that he might be in a bit of doubt for this weekend, but if that was the case, with his record, I think that it should to us, providing his medical, he comes through the medical okay.
Des, Craig Crowley, mates. Ben Barber and Daly Cherry Evans, mate, they're exceptional talents. How do you get players like this into your group, and can you get them a start come Origin 1?
Good question. Don't know the answer just yet. They're both playing really well. I mean, Ben's obviously had a few problems earlier, but he's come back to it now. Cherry Evans is in outstanding form. But we've got to get the balance right over the 17, 18 players, and that's going to be a big task. So, it'd be disappointed if they missed out, but unfortunately, someone's got to. But they are great talents, and I'm sure that they'll get their opportunity over the next, if not this year, certainly in the next years to come.
Yeah, just on that, Des, there's been a bit of maybe not talk in the media, but a bit written about perhaps the Queensland squad. Starting to age, and whether or not the selectors are looking at bringing in, some younger players and giving them an opportunity now while the side's still sort of fairly settled. How do you feel about that? And are there any players that maybe you're looking at bringing in?
Oh, look, it's certainly a fact of life that they are. We, as a group, they are aging a bit. We've had, as you said earlier, two major retirements last year, and Petro and Darren, and the year before. And so, obviously you're always looking for the opportunity, but, what we've got to be mindful of, that we've got 2 games in Sydney this year. The important thing is that we win our first one. So, these guys will, we'll work out at the weekend whether who we think what's their best chance of winning that game, and that's our priority, winning this first game. And we'll look after this as the season progresses. But, I think we are starting to get a few young blokes in, like Madigan coming out last year, and, we've done it over the years with bringing young guys in and blooding them, for want of a better word, and, that will continue. So, whether we do that in our first game or not is probably, we've got to wait and see. But, we're very conscious of the fact that we're all getting a bit older. But, I think, we've got to show a bit of faith in these guys. They've done a tremendous job for us over the last 7 years. So, they deserve they deserve some loyalty from us, and also, I'm sure the opportunity will come up with injury or whatever as we go through the season.
That's it, mate. You touched on Darren Lockyer and Petro Sivanasi with the retirements. We've said goodbye to two absolute legends of Queensland Rugby League over the last 2 years. This is the first series we've gone into since 1997 with neither of those guys. How much of a void does it leave with the experience of those guys, and who are the players that will step up and take over the leadership?
Oh, look, I think we're very fortunate having Cameron Smith as a captain. Cameron's done it all basically, and Cooper Cronks obviously does a very good job. Jonathan Thurston's a club captain and is a great leader as well. So I don't think we hold any fears in that area. Matty Scott's did quite a lot of tests under his belt. Dave Shillington's is in that ilk as well. So he's a club captain. So I'm sure that we'll have plenty of experience out there. And I don't think it'll affect us too much, to be honest. It was great that Petro could finish his career on a high at Origin level with the win that we had, and same with down the year before. But the bottom line is we've got to move on as we do, and we've got some really quality players in the team, and I'm sure that they'll be able to handle the situation.
Absolutely, Darren. I'll bring you in, mate.
Yeah, Des, Darren Madigan here, mate. I know that we'll say it's worked for us, and people looking from the outside would say, okay, it's only 3 games per year, but how important has having the coach as a full-time coach doing nothing else been to this dynasty that's been created?
Yeah, I don't think he's a full-time coach. He'd probably argue that he's got a few other things to do, but he has just proved himself to be an outstanding coach at Origin level. He's transformed the boys. He's got them all on the one track, and there's a lot of discipline in the side, a lot of discipline in the group. So he's done a great job, and obviously it works. 7 in a row, and New South Wales have now copied that form. So. But obviously, he's a big influence. That was a big influence. I'm taking, and he sort of plays down his role a bit and says that he's not a coach. He's this and he's that. But he's a very astute coach, and obviously, he's the glue that holds that squad together at this stage. Given how well it's gone, though, you wouldn't do it any other way in the future, would you? I wouldn't think so.
Fair enough.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Origin these days, and. And I was doing a great job, so we just march along and hope and work for continued success.
That's it. You're listening to SportzScene here on 101 FM. It's 26 minutes past 8. We're here talking to Chairman of Selectors for the Queensland State of Origin team, Des Morris. He's been very good of him to join us here this morning.
Yeah, Des, just one other point. It's probably not talking about the personnel that we have this year. I've just recently come off a state program with the AFL and our local competition, and it was a very limited preparation. We thought that was our best possible avenue because we do have players coming in from Northern Territory as well as the south and north of Brisbane. Just what I'd like to know is, you go into camp for quite a significant time. How much importance is put onto this into your camp that to gel players and to get them together to make sure they know each other well enough?
Oh well, it's a major importance, of course. Years ago, that wasn't the case. Where I suppose since Origin has been in, they've been doing probably 10-day camps or 7-day camps, but it's a pretty big game, and they need to prepare properly. They need to. As a lot of people have commented this year, that quite a few of those rep players, they have a fairly high involvement in the games, and also, their commitment is first class. So, they'll get in there and they'll rest. They'll get a bit of a rest for a while from the everyday training or club training they do every week. And it just gives them a chance to relax and bond. And, how fortunate with our guys, most of them will have been together for quite some time. So it doesn't take them long to get back into that groove. I think it'll refresh them a little bit in the first week or so, first few days, and then they'll sit down to or planning, or Melbourne have done most of the planning, but implementing the plan for the game on Wednesday week.
That's it. Look, Des, the last topic I just want to discuss with you before we let you go this morning. Greg Inglis has been setting the world on fire at fullback this year. He's been unbelievable. Yeah. But Queensland's got a guy, arguably the greatest of all time at fullback in Billy Slater. How do you manage the two of them in the one side?
Well, the same way we've done it for the last 7 years. Look, Greg is playing out of his skin at the moment. You can see the joy he's getting out of playing even. So he's obviously wrapped in playing in the fullback role. But, Greg's a real team player, and I'm sure that he would understand that his best position for us is probably centre. And the best position for Billy is obviously fullback. So, I don't think there's much argument, to be honest. But, and I'm sure Mel's a pretty innovative coach. He'll find a way to utilise Greg in that roving capacity that he does with South Sydney. So, I'm not too concerned about that, to be honest. They're both great players. The old saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I don't think that Greg will be disadvantaged by playing in the centres. In actual fact, it might be a bit refreshing for him. A little bit change from when he's on the club level. But I mean, he's thoroughly enjoying his footy. Billy's playing well, and I just think that to go at this stage.
Yeah, just on the selection process, from a personal perspective, Des, how much footage do you look at of players, and how many games, would you get? Do you get out to before an Origin series? We watch nearly every game. So it's a pretty full weekend. Obviously, we don't go to all the games. I've gone to all the local games this year, like Broncos or the Gold Coast. Yep.
And then, so I know Smithy's been to quite a few games down south, and Gino has done the same. Well, he hasn't been down south, I think, but he goes to every game, or we tape every game and watch it. So, it's a big commitment. We don't take the job lightly. So hopefully results Wednesday week.
That's it.
Fingers crossed. Well, they've got the results for the last 7 years. And just let me say, Des, as a Queensland supporter, I want to thank you and everybody involved with the Queensland team for the last 7 years. It's been unbelievable. Look, we'll let you go there. Thank you very much for talking to us this morning. And hopefully all goes well with selections. Touch wood, there's no big injuries or anything like that. And Queensland can come home with 8 straight. Des Morris, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
No worries, mate. Thank you. We'll go to a break now here on SportzScene. Stay with us. We'll take you through the rest of the world of the rugby league. Stay with us.
Do you have a street light that's not functioning correctly outside your property?
We play the biggest hits and the greatest memories. Logan City's 101 FM. And now it's back to Saturday SportzScene on 101 FM.
Welcome back to SportzScene here on 101 FM. It's 27 minutes to 9. Kevin Braysher, Craig Crowley, Ethan James and Darren Madigan all here with you. And a big thank you again to Des Morris. Terrific interview there. We're really looking forward to the State of Origin teams being announced this weekend. Plenty to discuss. We'll jump straight into it here on SportzScene. Give us some of our humble opinions after we've had a good chat with Desi there. We'll start with the Queensland team, Ethan. I think the backline pretty much picks itself. I think most people in Queensland will come with the same backline. We'll jump straight to the forwards, all right, with the front row situation. We talked about it with Des. Petro is retired. Ben Hannett is unavailable through injury. What do Queensland go with in the front row, in your opinion?
Well, they've still got Matt Scott there, as Desi said, so he'll be there.
First picked
for sure. He's been killing it in a rather ordinary Cowboys outfit. But yeah, in terms of other people who will partner him there in the front row, Dave Shillington from Canberra's recently come back from injury, and he's been a mainstay of the Origin. So I'm assuming that they'll go with him to start, unless, of course, they're looking at shifting one of the two who usually play in the back row for Queensland, Nate Miles and Sam Thaiday. They've both been playing proper club level, and Des alluded to it as well. So I'm sure they'd have no hesitation in pushing either of those two guys into the front row at sort of various stages of the match.
That's it. Look, that's probably the way. Personally, I would lean towards that and maybe even start with Nate Miles at prop and then play, depending on the fitness of Ash Harrison, I guess, because then you can play Ash Harrison, Corey Parker, Sam Thaiday in the back row, play Dave Shillington off the bench, and he's had huge impact off the bench in years past with a guy like, I like a guy like Jacob Lillyman off the bench as well. I think he'd be perfect for Rolly. He's done the job before for Queensland many times. What about the bench situation for Queensland? Another one, probably the only other area of contention. What sort of makeup would you have on your bench?
I think they'll stick sort of pretty solid to what they've been doing for the past few years in terms of having essentially 4 forwards on the bench who have enough versatility to sort of cover the backs if need be. Guys like Matt Gillette, Corey Parker should be there, Ben Teo, and then that last spot there on the bench is probably a bit of a toss-up. You're looking guys at, like, as you said, Jacob Lillyman, maybe a bit of a bolter from South Sydney, Chris McQueen, who's a versatile player there. Maybe even Josh Maguire from Brisbane, who probably hasn't been in the best form, but I think he's a player that sort of would be suited to Origin if he gets a chance.
Yeah, and I think he's the type of guy that everyone sort of speaks highly of him in the officials of Queensland, so it wouldn't surprise me to see that, Craig.
So on your bench, this is probably the AFL Rugby League combat all the time. You notice you go with 4 forwards. Mm-hmm. You don't look at a utility player, small, that could probably, whether it be a Cherry Evans or anyone like that. Maybe a Cherry Evans more importantly, because I think Barber is pretty much stuck to one spot because of his size. But I think Cherry Evans could play in your halves to give just your smaller players and your halves a bit of a break. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not really something that they do at rep footy though. No. In terms of resting your halves or rotating your halves, probably it'd do more damage than good. And we've sort of seen it in the past. Even just rotating dummy halves at Origin level, teams tend to lose a bit of momentum there. Yep. So Queensland haven't had that sort of quote-unquote utility sort of player for the past few years, and it's worked well because they can all play 80 minutes in the playmaking spots anyway. So.
Well, the player you could use, could claim as the quote-unquote utility player. We've talked about this before on the show, guys. Carmichael Hunt's done it in the past,
that's true, yeah.
And Cooper Cronk has done it in the past. Sean Berrigan did it before that. But the thing with those guys is they didn't come on and replace halves and other players. They came on and played in the forward rotation as a sort of roving player. So to me, it would have to be a guy who was, I guess, sturdy enough to play in the middle, tackle, and then pop up when needed to add in some creative value as well.
But as you said, Cooper Cronk, yes, who'll probably be one of your halves, he has played that role before. So Cherry Evans could go into his spot. He could go. Once again, you're changing a lot to get a result. Yeah. Maybe not that good, but you could do it that way.
Difference with Cronk is, though, he's not the traditional halfback straight away, because he came up through the ranks not as a halfback. He was playing in the centres and other roles. He has more, to me, had more utility value in the first place than Cherry Evans. I haven't seen Cherry Evans ever play anywhere except in halfback. And I know the one time I have seen him play off the bench was for Australia, and he didn't get on the field. So to me, as good as Cherry, and I really rate Cherry Evans, I think he's a terrific player. I think he'd have to wait for injuries to get his crack, and I think Barber's probably in the same boat. But yeah, Queensland team announced Monday. Looking forward to that. I think I don't think there'll be any surprises in the back line. All the regulars will be there. Billy, Greg Inglis, Thurston Cronk. We're blessed that we've had good stability over the last few years in Queensland. New South Wales, on the other hand, have not had as much stability, but I think this year, Ethan, we'll see a lot more stability from them. Are there any sort of bolters in the New South Wales team you expect to see?
They've had a few injuries in the outside backs. Quite a few have gone down there. The names off the top of my head I can't quite remember. But Morris, I think, there for New South Wales, and of course Brett Stewart at fullback was another one who won't be there due to injury. So there's a few sort of wing spots potentially open there. Nathan Merritt, I think, if there are injuries, I think Nathan Merritt's one, probably not a bolter because he's been doing fairly well at NRL level for a while, but he's one that could come into the wing. And the other big sort of contentious spot, I suppose, is 5'8" there. Whether they stick with Carney, who was there for all 3 games last year, or whether they sort of pick James Maloney, who has that Roosters combination with Pearce at halfback. I think that's the biggest sort of question for them.
Truth be told, we know that Mitchell Pearce will be the halfback, so with that logic, I think it's probably sensible to go with Carney or Maloney. But truth be told, I'm still an Adam Reynolds fan, and I wouldn't mind seeing Reynolds and Sutton play up the role for New South Wales. It won't happen, but it's something I wouldn't mind seeing happen. But yeah, Craig, you got a question for us?
Well, just the situation here, probably whichever side they go with in the New South Wales side, I think they're probably the biggest selection is Laurie Daly as coach. It's a different voice. He's been the heir apparent for quite some years. Coaching, I think, the countryside. Mm-hmm. Yep. So is a new voice, a new flavour around the New South Wales camp. Is that going to be a bonus to them?
Who knows? Well, only time will tell, I guess. And I think probably will. And look, time eventually they will win a series again. And it's not like they've got a terrible side. They're going to field a good side with a lot of good players. So Laurie Daly is a past legend, similar to in the vein of Ricky Stewart did the job and Meninga did for Queensland, to come back and sort of inspire them in that sense. So only time will tell exactly what influence Laurie Daly will have. But he's a proven winner in rugby league. He's one of the greats, Laurie Daly. Look, for the New South Wales team, aside from that, in the makeup, Paul Gallen's still been under an injury cloud. What sort of makeup do you see coming in the forwards there for New South Wales? Yeah,
it depends on where they sort of want to play Gallen, I suppose. He has played a bit of prop at Origin level before, usually sort of a lock back row for Cronulla. But yeah, in terms of where they want to pick him and how they want to shuffle the pack around. But I think in terms of the players that they're going to have there in the forwards, it's fairly well sort of cut in stone. James Tamau will be there in the front row. Bird and Watmay will be in the side. I think we'll have Luke Lewis on the bench. But yeah, the other big thing for New South Wales, and talk about the utility player again, is Kurt Gidley on the bench. Whether or not he's a valuable enough selection, because he's pretty much been permanent market into that number 14
for a long time.
Jersey for ages. But whether or not that's in the best interest of them as a team sort of remains to be seen.
This is something you and I have discussed many a times, and our personal opinions is that they'd be better suited without him on the bench. To my thinking, I would start as a back row with I'd go Hoffman, Bird, Gallen, and then play Luke Lewis as the utility player off the bench along with Anthony Watmo, and then go with Andrew Fafita, Trent Merrin, round out my bench. That's the sort of way I would go personally. I think Luke Lewis has got every bit the utility value that Kurt Gidley does. Luke Lewis has played for Australia on the wing. He's played in the centres. We've seen him play in the halves before. He can push up front. Luke Lewis can do it all. To me, if you play him off the bench, use him in the forward rotation, then if there's an injury, he's covered everywhere. So my thinking, that's the way it'll go. But we have seen Kurt Gidley's been a fixture of that side for a long time, so it would be a big call to drop.
Yeah, your suggestion that you'll have Merritt in the on their interchange, is that correct?
No, Merrin.
Oh, right. Sorry. I was going to say, you're going to get a winger in there, change the whole flavour.
Sorry, you've gone mad.
That's sort of the way I'd be going with New South Wales. Yeah. But you see, I think a lot of the New South Wales team will reflect what they did last year, because they were very good last year. They nearly got us. We'll leave that there. All will be revealed in the next couple of days to State of Origin. We're so excited. Over the next few weeks, we'll have loads to talk about with State of Origin. We'll quickly just have a look with the games last night. I just want to touch on with the Broncos and the Cowboys both playing. The Broncos, where are the Broncos at the moment, Ethan? They went down last night 24-14 to the Bulldogs, we'll say.
They did. They were gritty in defence, I thought. There were times there when they defended their line pretty well. But they just lack spark. And I'm not exactly sure what that comes down to. They're sort of when you look at some of the other teams, and they're really dynamic sort of players with speed and footwork and agility, they don't really seem to have that sort of spark to their backline or even in the forwards at the moment. I don't know, it's sort of a bit tough there.
It is a tough one for Broncos. They didn't seem to have a lot going for them last night. It was a tough night for them. Another side that I'm frankly getting a little tired of, North Queensland Cowboys. The side, I know, Darren, you'll be in the same boat. Me and Ethan were big on them at the start of the year. They should have gone great. They went down to the Tigers last night. It was a tight game. It was last minute stuff, but the Cowboys, it seems they have an inability to win in Sydney. This is a game they should have won. Darren, for North Queenslander supporters, how much more time do you give them to get it right?
I think we're past the point now, unfortunately. The problem at the moment is that they're one of those classic sides, and every code's got them, where they're playing nowhere near where their roster says they should be playing. I know that's Captain Obvious, but it is just so incredibly frustrating, especially when you look at some of the combinations that side has. They should be blitzing it, and what can you say? Every week this seems to be happening, and it's terribly frustrating. And you can actually see when you watch things like the local news, they're running out of spin. And you just don't know where. As a journo, I feel sorry for them sometimes, because you don't know where they can go with it, because they're trying to keep their relationships with the club and stuff, but they've got to be fair dinkum with what they say as well. And where do you go with some of this stuff? Because I mean, how much can you spin it before everyone just stands back and goes, "Oh, come on"?
Yeah, that's it. Like, as a Queenslander, I got to say, me and myself, I've run out of excuses for the Cowboys, and they need to get it together now. Robert Lewis back playing halfback. He's their preferred 7. They got Ray Thompson in 9. They got all the tools everywhere. They should be doing better, the Cowboys, but unfortunately they're not. They went down 22-20 last night. Well, quickly, just give me a tip on all these. We'll go through, and then we'll get through to the Intrust Super Cup. Ethan, Dragons Panthers tonight. Who do you like?
Dragons in that one.
Dragons. What about Rooster Storm?
Yeah, that's going to be an absolute cracker. I think we might see the Storm get up in this one. There were some good signs last week, I thought.
Yeah, and the Roosters has been a real good patch for them to prove themselves against Manly. They beat the Cowboys up in North Queensland last week. This week against the Storm, it'll be a cracker. I like the Storm in big game situations. The Sea Eagles up against the Raiders.
Yeah, that'll be another interesting one. Sea Eagles, it's probably still a bit under strength, and Canberra have been in some really good attacking form. It's at Brookie, though, I'm guessing.
It is a Brookie.
Back to Sea Eagles there.
Yeah, you got it back to Seagulls at Brookie, but I got a sneaky feeling the Raiders up for an upset. Eels-Titans at Mudgee, 3 p.m. Sunday afternoon. Give us a tip.
Mudgee, Parramatta in that one.
Parramatta? Yeah, the Titans got a couple injuries as well. I think Parramatta might be due for another. They seem to be win one, lose one sort of stuff in recent weeks, so I'll go Parra too. The Warriors, the Knights. The Warriors, how bad were they last week? You can't tip them in this one, can you, even at home?
Surely not, although we've seen some teams bounce back from some pretty heavy losses. Wests did it last night. At home, I'm going to say the Warriors.
That's it. Finally, mate, last match of the round, Monday Night Football. The Sharks up against the Rabbitohs.
Yeah, another tight one. The Rabbitohs, I don't know, they've been travelling so well. You're sort of waiting for them to have a bit of an off week.
Yep.
I don't think it'll be this week, though, so I'll go with South.
Fair enough. We'll go through the Intrust Super Cup now. We're running out of time with all the Origin talk we've had, which will be a fixture of the next few weeks. And we'll get back to focusing with all the other stuff there, but Origin takes precedent, I'm sorry. We'll go through the Intrust Super Cup round 11 here. The Ipswich Jets up against the Redcliffe Dolphins. Redcliffe, their first game without their star, Luke Capewell. How's it going to go, Ethan?
Yeah, that's it. They've shifted Dan Kemp to fullback there, and Kennedy in the halves to cover for Capewell not being there. Redcliffe, they're probably further down on the table now than people sort of thought they would be at the start of the year. Ipswich are a tough team defensively, and if Redcliffe aren't there, they'll struggle to score points.
That's it. All right, Northern Pride up against the North Devils, Barlow Park, Saturday night, I should say, get my words together, 6:30 p.m. Who do you like, Northern Pride, North Devils?
Yeah, Northern Pride, back to the top of the table. They're a classy team when they're all together. I like them in that one.
Fair enough. Tweedhead Seagulls up against the Sunny Coast Seagulls at Pigabeen Sports. That is the TV game tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m.
Yeah, it is. The Sunshine Coast Sea Eagles have been punching above their weight, but they don't quite have the quality there to land the killer punches against some of the bigger teams. I'm thinking Tweedheads at home.
This is the one I'm really looking forward to this weekend. Wynnum Manly Seagulls up against the South Slogan Magpies, Cougarai Oval, 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. And South Slogan, they got a 1-point win over Mackay last week. They just keep winning, 5 on the trot. I think they'll win again here.
Yeah, and there's a few injuries and suspensions, I think, in the Wynnum camp as well. Shane Moreland, I think, broke his leg, and I think John Torrio's out for a bit with a suspension. So, yeah, South's in third. They'll be full of confidence. They kicked the field goal in the last minute there to win against Mackay. So, yeah, close match. I think South Slogan might just pip them, though.
I like South Slogan in this one as well. And Mark Beaumont, friend of the show, has done an unbelievable job with them this year. They just continue to go from strength to strength. Final match of the round, the Burleigh Bears up against the Mackay Cutters at Pizzy Park tomorrow afternoon. The Bears, a few players missing, getting called up to Titans duties. Guys like Mark Ioane, Sam Irwin, Anthony Don, all getting called up. Can you see them causing the upset here? They had a win last week. Can they cause the upset against Mackay?
I think there might be a sneaky chance of an upset here. I don't know. You saw them last week, Kev. How were they against Sunshine Coast?
Very good in the first half, but they as has been a trend for them all season, they have periods during the game where they fade in and out of the contest. They can't afford to do that against a team like Mackay, who's been very, very good this season. Jordan Rankin hasn't been named, but my understanding is that he will play, so that'll be a big boost for him as well. A guy that called up from Bycroft Cup, Jamie Anderson, keep an eye on him. He's been absolutely destroying it in the Queensland Cup. He's in the South East Queensland team as well. Bycroft Cup, I should say. He's been magnificent, so keep an eye on him. I think a sneaky upset is on the cards in that one. I think Bears perhaps turned the corner in the first half last week. At least for Bears supporters will be hoping so, at least. Take a look at the ladder. We should say that the byes this week, the Central Queensland side and East Tigers, both get the bye this weekend. The ladder at the moment, Northern Pride on top, Ippy Jets, South Slogan Magpies, Mackay Cutters, North Devils. That's top 5. We got Wynnum Manly, Redcliffe, Tweed Heads, East Tigers, the Bears, Central Capras, and then Sunny Coast down the bottom. We'll take a quick break here on Sports Scene. When we come back, we'll talk through all things European football. There's plenty to talk about. We'll also get to the French Open, which starts next week in Roland Garros. So stay with us here on 101 FM.
Meet your friends and relax over tea or coffee in a friendly atmosphere at Central Perk, 390 Kingston Road. Central Perk opens from 7am Monday to Friday, 6am to 1pm Saturday. Support a 60-kilometre walk for cancer on Saturday, June the 1st, when Central Perk will donate $1 for each tea or coffee sold from 2pm. Bring a chair and support a great cause at our sponsor, Central Perk, next to Aldi, 390 Kingston Road. Like them on Facebook and receive a free coffee. Call Kim for details on 3299 3390.
Life. Life is for living. So live it. Life. Life is for giving. So give it. Giving blood is cool. Needing it isn't. Red Cross. Give a little. Life is for living. Life is for giving. Help save lives. Please give blood.
Did you know that there are over 1,000 orphaned orangutans living in care centres in Borneo and Sumatra because their habitats have been destroyed and their mothers killed? You can help one of these orphans in need by adopting from the Orangutan Project. From just $55 a year, you can provide all the care and nourishment to successfully rehabilitate and hopefully one day return them to the wild. Visit orangutan.org.au for more information.
Remember When? With Richard Davey, bringing you golden musical memories from the 1920s to the late 50s.
Hey now, you better listen to me, every one of you. We got a lot of work to do. Forget about your women and that water can. 'Cause you're working for the man. Working for the man. Waterloo, Waterloo. Everybody has to be in water.
On 101 FM.
We play the biggest hits and the greatest memories. Logan City's 101 FM.
You're listening to Saturday Sports Scene on the voice of Logan City, 101 FM.
Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. It's 9 minutes to 9, your next fresh news update coming up at the top of the hour. Kevin Braysher, Craig Crowley, Ethan James and Darren Madigan all here with you. It's a big show today. Coming up at 9 o'clock, we've got the Operations Officer for the NEFL, Craig Miller. He's been on the show a few times before. He'll be on the show with us again to talk to us at 9 o'clock after the news. If you want to get in contact with us at Sports Scene, we are on social media, youtube.com/sportscene, facebook.com/sportscene, SPORTZSCENE, SPORTZSCENE. We're also on Twitter at Sports Scene. Darren, big weekend in European football.
Mate, massive. This is the big one. Probably the biggest game of football to be played this year, unless you're a South American fan, I guess. But, because there's no major tournaments this year, this is the big one. The Champions League final. Bayern Munich playing, one of the biggest clubs in the world, playing Borussia Dortmund. And really, the baton has been passed from Spanish football. I mean, Real Madrid and Barcelona, we've expected one of them to be there. Well, not this year. I've been on the Bayern Munich bandwagon since the start of the tournament. I'm not going to jump off it. It's going to be a tough game to pick, though. I mean, Bayern Munich has just been fantastic in attack. Watch out for a guy named Robben, Robben. When he swings around onto his left foot, it's like watching Beckham in his prime. Just the way he can make that ball swing, and he can score from just about anywhere on the right-hand side of the field if he gets the ball in his left foot. So it's something very, very exciting to watch these guys play. You've got an amazing attacking side coming up against a wonderful defensive side in Borussia Dortmund. They have been 1-2 this year in their domestic championship, the Bundesliga. Interesting, just in the last week or so, the last 4 games or so that have been played domestically and everything by Borussia Dortmund, they've lost. So they're on a bit of a downer just at the moment, but they're coming up. I should mention the game is being played at Wembley, and in front of 90-odd thousand people. 4:15 a.m. I think the coverage starts. I hope I've got my clocks right here. I think it's tomorrow morning. It's the 25th anyway. 25th, 4:15 a.m. Australian time. The 25th in England. So that should be, I think, tomorrow morning our time, 4:15 a.m. But yeah, I'm going to stick with Bayern Munich. Watch out for that guy I was mentioning. Bald-headed guy, plays up front as a striker, and he's just fantastic to watch. So really, really looking forward to that. It's just so exciting. This is the big one for the year.
It is. It's an awesome thing. These finals, the crowd atmosphere is going to be amazing. It's sort of like a step up from all other sports. This sort of thing, isn't it, Darren?
It really is, and they're cherry ripe for this. This is their third final in 4 years. They haven't won yet. They keep losing them. So this is Bayern Munich I'm talking about, and they have just been a dominant team this year, and I think they've won something like 42 out of 52 outings this year, whereas Borussia Dortmund have won about half the games that they've played in and drawn a lot of games as well to get where they are. So, yeah, it's something very, very special, as you say. These games are just done so brilliantly, and just watch it early. Don't just turn it on when the game starts. Watch it early and watch the lead-up that these guys do. We think we do some pretty good lead-ups for our footy codes. Watch these guys do it. It's pretty special.
That's it. We're listening to SportzScene here on 101 FM. 5 minutes to 9. Your next fresh news update coming up shortly. Kevin Braysher, Craig Crowley, Ethan James, Darren Madigan, all with you. Darren, another big event happening over in Europe that I know you're very excited about. I think we're all excited about here in the panel. The French Open gets underway this week.
Yeah, I guess 4 times a year we all become tennis experts, don't we? When it's all on. We got 4 Australians playing in the men's draw. As you heard in the news, James Duckworth. What I can tell you is James will play Blazkavcic, I think, from Slovenia.
You're better than that.
I watched Blaz down at the Oz Open, actually. He's not a bad player.
Good stuff. So it's looking pretty good there. So obviously Duckworth's qualified through on there. Matosevic will be coming up against David Ferrer, first round, 4th seed. Thank you very much. That's all she wrote. Gilles Simon will play Leighton Hewitt. It should be an absolute cracker of a first round match. Simon is seeded 15th. Roger Federer at the bottom of the draw, seeded 2nd. Novak is at the top of the draw, seeded 1st. And that's good news if you're looking forward to seeing Roger get through to have a real crack at another Roland Garros final, because sooner or later Rafa Nadal will have to play Novak Djokovic, probably in a semi-final if they both get through. We should point out too that Rafa has a 52-1 record in this tournament. He's won it 7 times, and obviously going for it's just to get your head around winning a slam 8 times is ridiculous, isn't it, Evan?
Oh, look, that one was he retired hurt from memory too, didn't he?
He did.
That one. That's amazing. It's unbelievable. Look, Ethan, I'll come to you, mate. We haven't had a chance to showcase your tennis love since you've joined the show. You, of course, worked at the Australian Open this year. Who do you like going into this tournament?
Oh, yeah, as you said there, it's hard to look past Rafa. Although Djokovic did beat him on clay in one of the lead-up tournaments, I think about a month ago. It's not impossible to beat Rafa on clay, although at the French Open, unless he goes down with injury, no one's beaten him. So.
What is it about Rafa at Roland Garros that makes him so unbeatable?
It's the heaviness of his ground stroke and his forehand, the top spin. I've watched him down at court level, and the amount of top spin and kick he was getting off the court, even on hard courts, was absolutely astounding. So that would be ridiculously hard to combat. And of course, when he plays Federer, he just goes cross court to Federer's one-handed backhand and eats him up, really. So
that's his thing.
That's it.
Look, Darren, the thing I love watching Rafa play on any surface is that he has this ability. It seems no matter where the ball's hit, Rafa is able to get to it. In your opinion, what is it makes him so great on clay?
Look, the angles that the men get at the top of the game is pretty incredible these days, no matter what the surface. But I can tell you, Rafa, they did tests on these guys a few years ago. Rafa gets about 20% more topspin on the ball than any other player, even with his normal racket. About 2 or 3 years ago, he's with the Babolat company, and he was using special strings that have come out, and Sam Stosur started using them as well, and she ended up winning a French Open straight afterwards. The amount, they just give them that extra bit, and so when you're already getting 20% more topspin over your opponent, and that's really important, Kevin, because the more topspin you get, the more you can play for those lines, you can play for those corners, because you have more chance the ball's going to drop in short. So you can really go for those shots. And as Ethan said, he's so heavy on that, and that's part of the reason why he gets so much more topspin than any other player in the tournament. We're coming up in the final minute before the news. I will say, it's hard to go past Rafa. Novak's going well. If Rafa gets knocked out, I believe Roger can go right through. As far as the girls are concerned, it's pretty, even though Serena got knocked out in the first round last year, it really is hard to go past her. Also, Samantha, although she hasn't been playing that well, she can come through quite well at the French Open, and I wouldn't be surprised to see her do something. So, but I think it's going to be hard to tip past Serena.
Yeah, tend to agree, mate. Look, Sam Stosur, we've seen her perform well at the French before. Hopefully she can do it again. We've got to go to the news here on SportzScene. Stay with us in the second hour. Coming up straight after the break, we've got Operator... SportzScene here on 101 FM, and it's 5 minutes past 9. Kevin Braysher here with you as always. Joining me, the founding father of SportzScene, Mr. Darren Madigan, for AFL Queensland Hall of Famer Craig Crowley, and from the QRL, Ethan James. And joining us on the line, he's the operations manager for the NEAFL and the NEAFL Northern Division, Mr. Craig Miller. Craig, welcome to SportzScene again.
Pleasure, Kevin. Thanks for having us.
No worries, mate. It's great to have you on the show. We've been covering it over the last couple of weeks, but the NEAFL Rep Games took place a couple of weeks ago down there in Adelaide. Some mixed results for the NEAFL sides down there. Of course, the 22s getting that great win. But the senior side, mate, very good first half performance, but fell away a bit in the second half. What did you make of the whole thing?
I mean, it was a tremendous experience. It's the first time that we've played South Australia in the last 10 years, and especially under the new NEAFL concept, and I think it'd be fair to say that we definitely were competitive for half of the match after we sort of established a style of play that we could match the South Australians with, but unfortunately I guess for the NEAFL we struggled in the second half of the game, and we learned a bit of a lesson about how to play a higher level of footy, and unfortunately the result didn't go our way, but I think more the point of the good component of the whole exercise was that we put together a NEAFL under-22s team representing Canberra, Sydney, Brisbane and the Territory, and we went down and played against the South Australians, and they were good enough to get the points as such, and I guess probably maintain some credibility in amongst our younger players in the competition that they can easily match it against, arguably one of the best competitions in Australia.
Yeah, Craig, just looking, I suppose you probably got the same memo that I did from Jason. It was quite outstanding to find out some previous records when we played South Australia over the years. We've had quite a significant touch-up from the sides. I suppose in that regard, even though it wasn't an 80-odd point loss at the end of the day, it was still a lot better than what we'd done previously. So, and as you said, the first half was a really commendable effort. Do you think probably personnel and injuries probably took its toll over, the entirety of the game?
Yeah, and probably it's probably fair to say too, Jack, that it was probably as part of the lead-up too, where you pick an original squad, and no doubt that the South Australians would have had exactly the same situations with unavailability for various reasons and injuries, and probably the major difference is that with quite a proud and as I said before, arguably probably the best competition in Australia, second-tier competition in Australia, is that their player stocks bat a lot deeper than they do in the Queensland or the NEAFL market, and unfortunately in the game we sustained two quite serious injuries to a forward in Josh Baxter, who's one of the best forwards in the competition in the NEAFL, and then Ryan David, who was the Grogan medalist from last year. So sort of our ability to rotate players through the interchange was sort of hampered in the second half of the game, and the South Australians were just too good, and that's probably being brutally honest. We're not going to hide behind anything. They were just far too good, but it definitely didn't help our cause when we were hamstrung by injuries.
Yeah, Craig, just from a sort of player development type of thing, we saw in one of the NEAFL matches against Western Australia a few years ago, a bloke by the name of Dave Zorko get drafted to the Brisbane Lions off the back of his performance in that match. We've seen sort of something similar happen in this match this year with Sam Michael being promoted from the rookie list into the Brisbane Lions senior list. Can you tell us a bit more about him?
Yeah, it's a great effort by big Sam Horse Michael. He was outstanding for us, a real shining light out of that game, and there were a number of other players that really put their hand up. Scott Clark, who's new to the NEAFL this year, and as a full-time player out at Morningside, and he was outstanding also. But in particular, Sam Michael, 19-year-old from Cairns. He's been in southeast Queensland for 2 or 3 years now. I mean, he's already spent a year on the Lions list, and it would probably be fair to say that this time last year he was really struggling to adjust from NEAFL footy into the AFL environment. But his back half of 2012 was outstanding. He won the medal last year as best on ground in the game against the Eastern Conference, and then he won the Zane Taylor medal recently in the state game. And full credit to him, he works hard, and the Brisbane Lions have identified that. He's got a fantastic work rate, and he's been given an opportunity tonight to play against Carlton. And I guess it's probably another important ingredient of state footy is that it does give our state-based rookies, in Sam Michael in particular, opportunities to play against the best players in the country. And it probably gave confidence for the Lions to say, hey, well, he's been playing well in the NEAFL, now he's played well in the state game, we need to look at him more seriously for senior selection. So Dane Zorko did it again, did it a couple of years ago. It was probably argued that was the game that created a pathway a lot clearer to the AFL system. He was therefore drafted, and he's hardly missed a beat since he made his debut for the Lions last year. And Niall McKeever was another example where he was the Irishman who was on the rookie list for the Brisbane Lions, and he played also well in that game against Western Australia. And I think it was a week or 2 weeks later after that game, he was promoted to the senior list to make his debut also. So it definitely provides a pathway for players, not only in the AFL system, but for others that aren't far away from it.
That's it. Darren Madigan, I'll bring you in, mate.
Oh, g'day, Craig. Darren Madigan here, mate. As I said last week, I think it's absolutely a credit to you guys. I mean, I've been involved with Queensland footy since the early 1970s, and I mean, I've seen our rep sides get beaten by club sides in the SANFL down through the years, especially back in the late 70s, early 80s. So to see where we've come, to win a game of underage footy against them, and to go so well right up until about halfway through the third quarter, I think it was an absolute credit to the way you guys put them together. I don't think anybody expected you to go down and win the game, but I think for most of the afternoon you would have had smiles on your faces. That's just a comment. The question is, mate, just taking a look at the competition at the moment. A few years ago when we first started this, the Northern Territory virtually came out on an Australian story on the ABC and virtually made it clear that they had some sort of plan, maybe a 5-year plan, that they'd dominate this comp and then go and join the SANFL. Clearly that's not happening at the moment. Where do you think the Thunder are at the moment in the big scheme of things?
It's probably a very timely question, Darren, and I mean, you know Queensland footy quite well, and it's definitely when they entered the Queensland State League 5 years ago. They're in their 5th year now, and their 3rd year into the NEAFL. It was definitely a possibility that they were using this as an avenue to look at other options after their 5-year licence, and that's currently up for review. But early indications from the NC Thunder are that they don't have any inclination to look at other leagues. They are committed to being a part of the NEAFL competition. They've really enjoyed their time in it. There's no doubt that probably, to be fair to say, 12 months ago, after 2 really good seasons, that they might have entertained that thought again. But I'm in Darwin next week sitting down with their board and their CEO, Jared Eilert, to discuss their new licence in the NEAFL competition, because that's where they've said that they're committed with their future.
Craig, I think it'd be great to see that because I mean, obviously, I'm actually up here in far north Queensland these days, and I was just down in Cairns doing some stuff during the week, and you drive down the main drag there, and you see that amazing facility that used to be called Australian Football Park. And, the ground's like a billiard table. You got to stand from the Gabba there. The lights are television quality. I mean, once we get a team from up here as well, it sort of just fills the gaps in around the state geographically. And I'd hate to see the Territory Thunder go.
Yeah, no, I think everyone is probably of the same opinion, is that their facility, their modelling, their actual program is first class. It is almost identical to an AFL program. They're well-resourced, they're well-funded, they're well-supported by the Territorians. They have their internal challenges, like many football clubs do, and a lot of theirs is around geography and, I guess, community players driving 2 or 3 hours into Alice Springs to play games and then getting on planes to fly to Darwin. So they have a lot of challenges, but Jared Island and his team up there do a fantastic job. They've got a really strong board. And they'll continue to provide a pathway for Territorians, and we'd be silly not to be continuing an arrangement because they bring such a diverse dimension to the competition that it's more unique to any other competition in Australia, and that alone means that our players in South East Queensland get the experiences to be involved with territory footy, which obviously the Territorians are very passionate about. And as I said, it's a different flavour to the competition that we haven't had before.
Yeah, Craig, once again, just talking to you off air before, you were speaking about Andrew Demetrio coming to South East Queensland to have a little bit of a chat about football. That's great to know that first and foremost he's here to have a chat, not just all about AFL and the big picture, but also the underpinning competitions that obviously they support very rigorously, and also just generally having someone of that ilk coming down and touching base with. You'd be looking forward to that meeting.
Yeah, it's a very exciting opportunity for our NEFL clubs and Division 1 clubs to actually sit in the room with Andrew as more like a one-on-one type meeting and talk about the AFL industry as a whole and in particular Queensland footy and our landscape and how unique it is, but how important it also is for the AFL as an industry to continue the progress and development of footy in this state. And we had Gil McLaughlin, who's 2IC to Andrew up here last week, talking about the new structures internally with the AFL. So it's definitely been a big win for the AFL football, or the football public in Queensland, to be exposed to Andrew in that type of forum, as opposed to, I guess, just reading about it in the paper all the time about some of the stuff or the comments that Andrew makes. It's an exciting opportunity for those clubs.
And probably finally, mate, just to the listeners out there, obviously not so good this competition. Our last state game. What's upcoming? What have we got in the next couple of years in the way of football? Where we're looking for see how we go in the way of the state footy.
In relation to state footy, Jack, we've got Tasmania next year, so that's another challenge for us. We've played them a few times over the last 5 or 6 years, so they've got a big game in June against the Eastern Conference, New South Wales ACT, so that'll be interesting to see how that sort of game unfolds. A really big challenge for the Eastern Conference to perform well after last year's match against us, in which we were quite comfortable winners. But so that's a big challenge. And then in 2015, arguably our second biggest challenge in recent history is playing against the VFL. So we've got some big tasks ahead of us, but in the process of conducting a full review of that program and to do on an annual basis to ensure that we provide the best program and the best opportunities for the best players and staff in Queensland to go down and get the results that we ultimately want when we play state footy. So we've got a couple of big challenges ahead, Jack.
Yep. Well, fingers crossed they can get the job done for us and really come on and keep improving and keep showing what's great about the NEFL competition. Craig Miller, thank you very much for being with us here on SportzScene once again.
Pleasure, Jens. Thanks for your time.
No worries, mate. Pleasure to have you on at any time. We'll go to a break now. When we come back, we'll go through the rest of the world of Aussie rules football. Stay with us here on SportzScene.
101 FM.
listening to Saturday Sports Scene on 101 FM.
Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. Kevin Braysher, Craig Crowley, Ethan James, Darren Madigan, all here with you. 21 minutes past 9 here. Next fresh news update coming up at the top of the hour at 10 o'clock. If you want to get in contact with us at Sports Scene, we are on social media, youtube.com and facebook.com/sportscene, SportzScene, SportzScene. Also on Twitter at SportsScene. Great interview there again. Craig Miller, big thank you for being on the show. It was terrific stuff talking to him. We'll definitely get him back on again in the future. Good friend of the show, Craig Miller. We'll go through now the NEFL, Craig, round 10. We'll jump straight into it. The UWS Giants up against the Gold Coast Suns. That is today, 10 a.m. As soon as we get off the air, they'll be playing down there in Sydney. How's this going to go?
Yeah, a lot of people would probably be thinking, geez, we seem to be talking about the Lions, the Suns, the Giants down there, and also the Swans continually playing each other. Well, that's how it's actually evolved in the way of our competition. They try to play each other as many times as they possibly can, probably more so than what we would play another team in our competition. So if you're wondering why that's happening, that's why it's happening. Once again, it comes down to their list, what they've got available at the time. I think probably the Suns are up and about. They're going really well at the moment, so I would suggest they'll be too strong for the Giants down there.
Belconnen, mate, up against Broadbeach at Kippix. That's 11:45 a.m. today. A lot of early morning games looking along here.
Yeah. Look, Broadbeach, they're a bit of an unpredictable side. They're up one week, they're down another. Belconnen, probably not one of the stronger sides, I would suggest. But, look, Broadbeach, to my way of thinking, will be good enough to win this game.
We got Labrador up against Aspley. That's today, 1:30 p.m. Cook Murphy Oval.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a sad situation with Labrador at the moment. Last week they played Redlands and got absolutely pulverised. So I think they're a proud club and they're in their 50th year of existence in the competition. So you'd like to think they would be competitive, but Aspley are very, very strong at the moment. So Aspley will be too strong. That
fair enough. Redlands up against Mount Gravatt. Redlands this afternoon, 1:30 p.m.
Yeah, look, we played Mount Gravatt last week, and we found it hard to put them away. Albeit we had a few younger guys playing, but that's no excuse. And they toughed it to us, and it looked like being a big upset there for a while. But so hopefully Mount Gravatt grabbed something out of that. But I think probably Redlands will be too strong.
And then final match of the round, mate, your Southport Sharks up against the Brisbane Lions, 1:30 p.m. This afternoon. You're at home.
It's always a hard one, mate.
Big one this one.
Yeah, I think they're fully listed. Look, we'll be doing our utmost. We're playing the best possible side we've got. Sometimes you get the opportunity, I suppose, to rest players in these games when you're playing a fully loaded side, knowing there wasn't much chance. But we're really confident, especially after our showing against the Suns. We only got beaten by 5 goals, and they had a reasonable full list then. So, look, if we can match it with them and stick to our processes, we're well and truly in with this a chance. And you'd probably think, even though we're doing well this year, that to win this game would be an upset, and I think we can do it.
Yeah, 1 versus 2, that one would be an absolute cracker this afternoon. Fankhauser, mate. Morningside and NT Thunder get the bye this week. Take a look at the ladder in the NEFL after 12 rounds. Brisbane Lions in first, Southport Sharks in second. We got Morningside, NT Thunder, Aspley, Gold Coast Suns, Redlands, Broadbeach, Labrador, Mount Gravatt. That is the ladder for the NEFL after 9 rounds. We'll jump now into the world of the AFL. We'll start with last night, the game with the Swans and the Magpies at the MCG. The Swans getting up 15-12, 102 to 8-7-55.
Yeah.
But Darren, a lot of the talk after the game is about a bit of an ugly incident that happened in the crowd.
Yeah, and of all people to do it to, I mean, you should never do it anyway, but to do it to a man who is an absolute legend of our sport. For those of you who aren't aware, Swans got up very comfortably last night, as Kevin just mentioned, but during the game, Adam Goodes was racially vilified by some moron in the crowd. Eddie Maguire, straight after the match, has done the right thing. He's gone into the Swans change rooms, shook Goodes' hand, and basically apologised on behalf of the club. Apart from anything else, you just don't do this. We've come so far. It's 2013. The game has worked so hard. It's Indigenous round weekend, for goodness sake. And, this guy, a lot of the old timers will probably hang me for the nearest tree for saying this, but I know Polly Farmer was an absolute great of the game, but I believe Adam Goodes is the greatest Indigenous player we've seen. And I wouldn't be surprised to see another Brownlow out of him before his career finishes. He's just that good, and he was best on ground last night, and he deserved better.
Yeah, look, Darren, the other thing about that too, and which I commend the Collingwood crowd, I suppose, or the supporters, they made sure that this person was singled out, and they and obviously security looked after the rest of it.
Good on them.
For all the a lot of the times we talk about the Collingwood supporters and how they are just very, very one-eyed, it was good to see that they, as a group, they identified their problem and they made sure something happened about this. And it's not something that should be spoken a lot about, the actual Collingwood supporter base too, because they actually were probably the ones behind it to make sure this person was escorted from the game. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, and I agree totally. I mean, it's something that I hope that, it is Australian. It's not un-Australian to dob a clown like that in. And I hope we see it at all levels of football, not just in the AFL, even at club footy. This sort of thing shouldn't go on. I grew up with it, and I played, especially up here in North Queensland, where I played a lot of my senior footy, and I was around it all the time, and it was absolutely disgusting. And, I'm just so glad that, in 2013, that these sort of things can be singled out and stopped from happening.
Well, fingers crossed it's the last time we have to talk about something like this for a long time here on SportzScene, because it's something we just don't want to see. We'll move on now with the rest of the 9th round of the AFL season. The Port Power up against the Geelong Cats, mate. Craig, I'll ask you about this one. Amy Stadium, 1:54, it'll be 1:45 our time. 1:15 actually, since standard time. It is in our time. But yeah, how do you see it going?
Do you ever want to play Geelong after being beaten? I think they're going to bounce back tremendously well, like Port. They've started off tremendously, and I think and we spoke about this, that they've gone out with new processes from the new coach, and they've probably snuck under the radar a little bit, but I think that, as all AFL clubs do, it does come down to just general ability, and the opposition have worked out the process of Port Adelaide, and I think they'll end up probably being on the worst end of the run for a while now. Geelong, they're just up and about. Yeah. They copped a loss last week. They'll be all the better for it this week. Geelong easy.
I'll stick with you on this one as well, Craig. Skoda Stadium, 2:10 p.m. this afternoon. The Giants up against the West Coast. How much?
it does sound that. But look, they've just got to keep plodding along, and it's really for the development of football, and not to sort of throw any cliches. They've just got to learn, and look, we all put West Coast up in the top 4, and with Nick Natanui coming back into the 4, all of a sudden they're starting to develop as a good side, which we knew they were going to be. But all GWS have just got to keep looking forward, keep playing well, develop their kids, but I can't see them being very close to them at the end of the day.
That's it. Darren, I'll come to you for this one. St Kilda up against the Western Bulldogs. That's tonight at this afternoon at Etihad Stadium, 4:40 p.m.
Yeah, it's almost one of those ho-hum games for me. I mean, I'm trying hard to get excited about that one, but I think for me, I think if Rewalt's playing in that, I think St Kilda will get up over the Doggies.
Craig, Brisbane Lions are home to Carlton tonight at the Gabba, at 7:40 p.m.
Yeah, well, Brisbane are up and about, aren't they? They great win last week, so that's going to be really important to them. Carlton, you just really don't know where they're at times. They can put the big game on and they can go missing quite easily. So, look, I'm going to stick with the home side. They're doing enough at the moment in a close game.
Darren, Dreamtime at the G tonight, 7:45 p.m. at MCG. The Richmond Tigers up against Essendon.
Yeah, second only to the Anzac Day game, probably in terms of match attendance during the year outside of the finals. This has become a huge, huge game. Obviously, kudos to Kevin Sheedy and the guys who started this all off. Richmond have got players back. Essendon have obviously had a great year so far, but with Richmond, I think Conscience back, and I think Marich is back as well. So I think they're looking. I think they can pull this one off against Essendon. 90,000 people. I think the general arena was sold out during the week. It's just going to be absolutely massive, and big old brickbats to the 7 network. You have 3 digital channels, and you're showing Brisbane and Carlton tonight instead of this match.
Look, yeah, I agree. And it's just, I know mad Richmond supporters, mad footy supporters would be disappointed about missing on that game. And you're dead right, Darren, about that, not getting able to see it on one of their digital channels at least. Look, the next game on the round, Sunday afternoon, 1:10 p.m. Hawthorn Hawks up against the Gold Coast Suns. I think we know what the tip's going to be, but mate, the Suns 4-4 this year. They've shown some improvements.
Well, you can just look at them now and see their body makeup is a lot stronger. They're competing like they've really got some great footballers coming through, and none better than Jaeger O'Meara at the moment. They're really speaking him up as a first year player. Just a great footballer, and they've got some real talent in their side, and they're going to keep developing. And look, sooner or later they're going to have to knock over a top side, and I can't see why it's not now. Just want to bring point of Hawthorn, a first gamer, a guy called Sam Grimley, plays his first game. He's played a few pre-season games. He's actually the son of Brett Grimley, who played for Wilson Grange up in Queensland. So even though he played the majority of his football in Victoria, it's good to see some sort of another Queenslander getting into the system. So all the best for you, Sam, and well done, Brett.
Good luck, mate. We love seeing that stuff. Darren, Sunday afternoon, 3:20 p.m. Etihad Stadium. The Kangaroos up against the Crows.
Yeah, it looks like a pretty good game. I mean, last time they played, Adelaide got up by about 4 or 5 goals at Amy Stadium. I've been umming and ahhing about Adelaide because they've been losing all their firepower up north. I'm going to go with the Kangaroos on this one.
The final match of the round, Craig, the Dockers up against the Melbourne Demons. That's at Patterson Stadium. Over there, it'll be 2:40 Western time over in Patterson Stadium, so it'll be 4:40 our time.
Yeah, look, Melbourne are doing it tough at the best of times to travel over to Western Australia and expect to do well against the Freo. It's going to be really hard. It hurts me to say it, but a lot of the experts are saying they're not as bad as they look. I think they are, and the Dockers will be too strong.
Fair enough. We look at the ladder now for the AFL. Hawthorn on top, Geelong, Sydney, Essendon, Fremantle, Port Adelaide, Richmond, Collingwood. That's 8, and then we got the back 8: Adelaide, Carlton, West Coast, Gold Coast, North Melbourne, Brisbane, St Kilda, Western Bulldogs, Melbourne, and the GWS Giants. That leaves us there with all the AFL stuff. Craig, you've got to scoot off early today.
Yeah, I better get down and see the Mighty Twos playing a game, so I'll be down there.
That's the one, mate. We'll look forward to having you back on the show next week. Thanks for what you've done with us today. We'll take a break now. When we come back, lots of motorsport to discuss. It's a big weekend in international motorsport. Stay with us on SportzScene.
Do you have a street light that's not functioning correctly outside your property? Perhaps you've noticed a floodlight over a zebra crossing that's not operating. Well, Energex would like you to report it to them by calling 13 12 53 or completing an online form for faulty streetlights on their website at energex.com.au. Remember also that the council has to pay the running cost of all the streetlights, whether they're working or not. So let's get the most for our rateable dollar by reporting the streetlights not functioning to Energex on 13 12 53 or on their website energex.com.au.
For the best musical memories from the 50s and the 60s.
Hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more. What you say? Hit the road. When I die and the limit to rest, gonna go to the place that's the best. When I lay me down to die, going up to the spirit in the sky.
It's Ted's Memories, Saturdays from 4 p.m. and only on 101 FM.
Play each machine seems to say as I walk round and round the penny arcade. Just ring the bell on the big bagatelle and you'll make
101 FM.
Now it's back to Saturday Sports Scene on 101 FM.
Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. 25 minutes to 10, your next fresh news update coming up at the top of the hour. Craig has left the studio. He's on his way. He's got to go down and coach the Southport 2 side there. But thanks to Craig for what he's done with us today. It was terrific stuff. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Ethan James, all still here with you. We've had a call, just a request for the AFL ladder once again. I'll read it out for you. Hawthorn at the top, Geelong in 2, Sydney 3, Essendon 4, Fremantle, Port, Richmond and Collingwood. That's top 8. We've got Adelaide, Carlton, West Coast, Gold Coast, North Melbourne, Brisbane Lions, St Kilda, Bulldogs, and Melbourne and GWS rounding up the ladder for the AFL. Darren, mate, it's a massive weekend for motorsport. We'll jump straight into it. Three huge races going on around the world this weekend.
It is, isn't it? It's a massive weekend in the United States. It is Memorial Day weekend. It's all sorts of things go on over there. Obvious, the most important thing, and where they remember the people they've lost in wars and everything. I know in my days when I was in the movie industry, it was also probably the biggest weekend of the year in movies as well, because when all the big stuff got released. But it's also the weekend when we have in America two massive races. We have the open wheeler guys racing at Indianapolis in the Indy 500, and the stock car guys race at Charlotte in North Carolina, and it's the longest race of the year for these guys. It's 600 miles. So it's nearly 1,000 kilometres around a 1.5 mile oval. Can you imagine spending hours at 200 mile an hour going up and turning left and trying to keep that going all afternoon? Down through the years, we have seen, and we won't be seeing it this year, but we have seen times where drivers have competed in the Indy 500, and where time has allowed, they've jumped on a plane, headed to Charlotte, and they've done the 600 miles there in that race as well. The last person who did it really well was Tony Stewart, believe it or not. I think he came sixth. This was about 2004, something like that. I know someone will pull me up on that year. And we were looking at coming sixth, I think it was, in the Indy 500 and third in the NASCAR race. So I
got to ask, Darren, on that point, how safe is it to race those two long endurance races in a couple of days like that?
I think the word insane comes to mind there. When we think about it, it's basically jumping in a race car in Brisbane and driving probably to Cooktown at 200 mile an hour average, and not only stopping to change tyres and refuel. It's crazy stuff, but they have done it in the past, and look, I personally, in the modern age, I hope they don't do it again, because you just think that sooner or later somebody's going to buy the farm, so to speak, doing that. But as far as last weekend was concerned, we'll go into the grids on those in a second. The V8 supercars, Austin 400, we were in Texas, which was what I was alluding to at the start of the show. Everything seems to be happening in Texas at the moment, including bad weather. And we had the Jamie Whincup win 3 of the 4 races. It was 4 100k races, and Fabian Coulthard won the other one. I don't know what you guys thought, but I'm still waiting for somebody to give me a plausible reason as to why we did it. From a manufacturer's point of view, we have the Nissan Altima is sold there. It doesn't have a V8 engine anywhere in the range. The Mercedes-Benz is a luxury mark, a luxury car, the AMG version, obviously. The Ford Falcon, well, we now know it's not going to be sold anywhere after 2016, because Ford have announced during the week that they're closing down their manufacturing plant in October 2016 here in Australia, and they've never really tried to export the car properly. And the Holden Commodore, which will be sold as a Chevrolet over there, but for some reason they decided to race it as a Holden there last weekend, won't be sold there till next year.
Well, we'll talk about the Ford thing in a minute, because it's a big issue going on in the world in Australia at the moment. But did the crowd figures at least justify being there, Darren?
I don't think so. 68,500 over 3 days. Not a great crowd figure, especially for the first year of the event. Normally these things have a novelty value, and you would expect, I mean, if that had been like on Sunday, I would have thought, well done, guys, you pulled it off. But, over 3 days, and I know people are going to ring up and have a crack at me and all that sort of stuff on this, but all I want is someone to give me a plausible argument from a business angle as to why we went over and did this. I'll stand corrected. I really will. But and jump on Facebook and have a chat with us about it, because I just cannot see the point in the exercise. At least we used to export things to the Middle East, when we were racing over there, and there's always a chance. But we've got one of the marks now. A couple of days after the race was finished, we now know in 3 years' time it's not going to exist anymore.
Okay, so we'll stay on that while we've got it, mate. What's the impact with the motorsport world, with Ford closing its doors for the locally made cars? What's the impact for the Australian motorsporting scene without the Falcon?
Sure, and this is where we take a look at this is where the size of our market really shows up. We like to think that we're big this and big that, but when we really look at it, it is a touring car series down at the bottom of the world in a country of 23 million people. So, they went over there and tried to get a bit of a niche over there. Ford closing their doors manufacturing-wise here. Obviously, the impact is massive, not just at the factory, but down the line with the parts manufacturers as well. From a motorsport angle, I don't think it's going to hurt the motorsport on a global scale that much. In Australia, they'll just have to put another mark in. So probably they'll race maybe it depends on what they replace the Falcon with here.
Sure.
You can bet they'll replace it with a medium to large size front wheel drive car.
Yeah.
And that will be imported. So, you start to look at things like some of those cars in America that are marketed over there. We may start being, so I think the Fusion might be one of them. We don't see that in Australia, but some of these other cars we might see. So we're going to see some names that aren't familiar. The CEO, I think, during the week, during the press conference, did say that the Falcon name, because it is so synonymous with Australia these days, even though it started as an American car, will pretty much be put to bed. So I think you'll see Ford won't stop racing. I mean, they're global, but they'll probably race with a different thing. And look, let's face it, the Nissan Altima doesn't have a V8 in the range, and they're still racing.
Yeah.
So
you got a point.
It's not that big a deal. I mean, NASCAR have been racing silhouettes since goodness knows when. So they'll figure out a way around it. I think the big thing from a business point of view is to get the Commodore going over in America and see how many sales they can do over there and see what sort of an impact. There was talk also during the race weekend that to get another race going over there to sort of split the costs a bit and do it. I think that's a good idea, but you still have to come up with a reason for being there in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's what I would like to be, and I'm not trying to be negative. I don't want to be negative about our major national series, but I just want someone to put up a reason for doing it instead of just saying, oh, yeah, we're Aussies and it's our great racing series. We need to have a reason for being there in the first place. I think there are going to be things that come up. You've just mentioned it. What's Ford going to do? They'll probably race with another brand, but also another mark, and also let's not forget German DTM are going to be there in 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
And they could very well change their regulations to allow for the Australian side of things to come into play as well. So anything could happen over the next couple of years as far as the motor racing side of it's concerned.
Absolutely. It's 17 minutes to 10 here on SportzScene. Your next fresh news update coming up at the top of the hour. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan and Ethan James all here still with you. Darren, one more really big race this weekend. I know you love the Monaco. The Monaco. Is it Monaco or Monaco? How do you say it?
It's Monaco. They're racing around the Principality there. That's
the one.
In Monte Carlo. This is the most prestigious race in the world. It's the one everyone wants to win. These cars outgrew this track 30 years ago. If you were setting up a new track to race on, you wouldn't allow anyone to go near this track. Yeah. But it's because it has such prestige. Half the grid probably lives there these days on tax dodgers and stuff, and that's the way it works. Your practice session 2, because Friday's a rest day, so the most recent time they've been on the track racing, Nico Rosberg has been quickest actually in both practice sessions from Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso. Mark Webber, 5th. He has won this race twice. So there's a good chance that he could win it. I think he also might have won it in Formula 3000 as well. So he loves the streets of Monte Carlo. And just taking a look at the rest of them, Kimi Räikkönen, talk about him taking Mark's seat at the end of the year, also coming in 6th just after him. At the moment, your standings before the race this weekend, Vettel, Räikkönen, Alonso, Lewis Hamilton in 4th spot, Mark Webber sitting in 6th, and Daniel Ricciardo, a lot of talk about him also taking Mark's spot at Red Bull at the moment at the end of the season in 12th place. Indianapolis 500, Ed Carpenter is on pole. Carlos Munoz and Marco Andretti make up the front row. These guys race in rows of 3 for the Indy 500. Will Power, a good friend of this program down through the years, will be in 6th spot. Scotty Dixon 16th and Ryan Briscoe 23rd. Okay, so for Aussies and New Zealanders wanting to know where all that's happening. And Marcus Ambrose is for the Coca-Cola 600 is currently looking at 23rd spot in the standings, and he will start the race in at the moment in 19th spot and just behind his teammate Eric Almirola. So There's an awful lot that's happening, a lot to report on next week, and it's going to be pretty huge. News around the place at the moment. Basically, there's a lot of talk at the moment about in Formula One whether the teams are going to be able to afford their engines when they start buying them as of next year, the new engines, the turbo V6s. It looks like Red Bull will rebrand their Renault engines Infinity because they're obviously part of the Nissan group as well. Nissan are part of the Renault group as well, and there's a lot of talk and rumours going on around the paddock at the moment. So over the next week or two, we should see some of that stuff starting to gain a bit of traction, and we'll have a bit more news to bring to you.
That's it. Thank you very much for that, Darren. It's so much happening in the world of motorsport over this weekend. All us Australians, I'm sure, will be on Mark Webber. He's won 2 of the last 3 Monaco GPs. Hopefully he can make it 3 out of the last 4 this weekend. We're all pulling for him. We'll take a break here on SportzScene. When we come back, plenty still to talk about. We've got some netball to touch on. We've got to go back, and we didn't go through the ladies' side of the draw too much with the French Open, so we'll touch on that too. We've also got the rugby during the week. We had the Lions Tour squad. The Wallabies Lions Tour squad was announced, the 25-man squad, so we'll talk about all of that in the last 15 minutes of the show. So stay with us here on SportzScene.
Hi, this is Eric Banner, patron of the Australian Childhood Foundation. There were over 300,000 reports of children being abused in Australia last year alone. It's a problem we have to face up to. Child abusers are counting on you to do nothing, but there is something you can do. By going to stopchildabusenow.com.au, you can find out how we can help protect our children. So please, stop doing nothing.
Veterans, their partners and war widows may be eligible to receive assistance from the Department of Veteran Affairs for one-on-one exercise conditioning and or rehabilitation programs with a doctor's referral to an exercise physiologist. Veterans who hold gold or white DVA pension cards and who reside in the Logan City area are encouraged to telephone Rebecca on 0437 542 095 for more information.
Do you love the movies? Do you want a delicious morning tea and a chance to win some great prizes? Of course you do. But better still, would you like to pay a very low admission price for all this, plus spend a great morning out at Logan City's very own cinema complex? Well, you can. 101 FM will deliver all this when the monthly movie is held at station sponsor, the Hyperplex Cinemas Logan Home. Like us on Facebook to find out what's screening, or listen across the day to Logan City's 101 FM.
101 FM.
You're listening to Saturday SportzScene on your station 101 FM.
Welcome back to SportzScene here on 101 FM. It's 12 minutes to 10. Your next fresh news update coming up at the top of the hour. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan and Ethan James all here with you. We've had a call from Shelby from Sunnybank Hills just now. He's got a few comments in relation to the V8s and the Ford industry and all the rest that we were just speaking about. Darren, he says it's sad to see what's happened with Ford. He said the industry is flooded with local imports, so we need to protect the local industry. And in regards to the V8s supercars, they've been to Asia and couldn't fill the stands. The far greater response in America than in Asia, and America got better crowds than many Australian tracks.
Well, I dispute the better than Australian tracks, but remember that 68,000 was over 3 days, we have to remember on that. I agree that the industry is in trouble. I guess it comes down on what side of the fence you fall business-wise. I mean, should any business be getting helped by government? And I suppose that's another argument for another time. But there are going to be plenty of people who will have a view on that as well. He's right, we did go to Asia and a lot of the stands were empty, which once again begs the question, why are we doing it?
Well, I think I come back to the point with all this, Darren, is you just read between the lines of what you're saying. You're not against the notion of going over to the places, you just want to know a reason why.
Yeah, a reason why we're spending the dough. I mean, wouldn't it be great if a week or two after they come up here for the Townsville, what is it, 400 or 500 or whatever, they drove around the streets of Cairns. I mean, spent the money doing that. Or had another race at Bathurst during the year for normal points. I just want someone to point out to me why we're doing it.
Yeah, fair. And look, but yeah, Shelby, thank you very much. A terrific point. You are right. Definitely better support in America than the V8's got in Asia. Comparable. Probably, would you say comparable crowd figures in Australia compared to the Americans, mate? Would you agree with that?
I think we still get more here. I think we still get more here. I mean, if you looked at your 3 days at places like Phillip Island, Surfers Paradise, Clipsal gets huge crowds. Yeah, we do all right at our bigger events here.
Okay, fair enough. Look, Shelby, thank you. Shelby from Sunnybank Hills, big thank you for your feedback on the show. We love that here on Sports Scene. Stay in contact with us. You give us a call at the station, or, you can hit us up on social media, Facebook, youtube.com/sportscene. So thanks again for Shelby from Sunnybank Hills. Darren, we didn't get to finish off the tennis discussion in the first hour. We ran out of time going into the news. But with the ladies' side of the draw, what else do we need to cover with that?
Yeah, well, we should take a look at what we've got there. I mean, we just mentioned Sam before. Sam's first match will be against the wonderful Kamiko Date Crum. She's 42 years old. She took a long break from the game, about a decade, I think it was. She's married a racing car driver there, and she's back, and she just gets out there and just enjoys the game. And every once in a while, she does a bit of a giant killing episode. Ashley Barty from Ipswich, her first match will be against Lucy Hadreka from the Czech Republic. And I've looked through the entire rest of the draw, and I can't see any other Australians there, although I will stand corrected. There's 128 very small print names there to go through. As far as the rest of it's concerned, Ethan, I think a good way to check this sometimes is to check the race to Istanbul, which gives an indication of how the players are actually going this year rather than the rankings. And just taking a look at the moment, obviously Maria Sharapova is doing so well. Vicky Azarenka sitting there in third spot. Sarah Irani's had a good year too, and Lee Na is only gone down one ranking point as well. So I think you can probably look at picking your winners out of some of those names there. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah, and you'd have to think Serena as well. I don't know if you mentioned her in that list just there, but yeah, she's
right at the top. She's right at the top.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, she doesn't play as many tournaments as some of those other players, but she always lifts for the big ones. And I think she knocked out early last year.
First round.
Yeah. Go. So, yeah, that doesn't happen too often. Although, in saying that, there are often a few sort of upsets at the French. It's the one tournament where there's occasionally someone who'll go through and knock out a few of the bigger names. So that could happen as well. And we've seen guys like Ernest Gulbis and also Grigor Dimitrov, rattle a few of the bigger names in lead-up tournaments as well. So they could do some damage on the men's side anyway.
Yeah, agreed. I think the thing about it is because it is clay, they only play so much on their. It's a bit like the grass tournaments. They only play so much on it during the year, and there are specialists who used to come along and absolutely go crazy. I mean, when we used to have some of the South Americans and the Spanish players and that come through and just do crazy stuff, we don't see that as much these days because there's a much larger proportion of the tour is played on hard courts these days. But having said that, we've still got Rafa there. He's still doing what Rafa does.
There's still a fair few Spaniards hanging around.
Yeah, that's right. So I think my tip is on the top of the draw for the men. Djokovic and Nadal, I think, will end up belting each other at some stage when they meet each other up. And I think if Nadal is taken out by Djokovic, who's probably the only player in the draw that I think that can do it. I think Roger could go right through because he's at the bottom of the draw.
The semi-finals there. Djokovic is online to meet Nadal on one side of the semi. Yeah, so that'll be Federer against probably David Ferrer if we're looking at seedings in the other semi.
Yeah. And look, as just a fan, I love, Rafa and Djokovic have got a great rivalry themselves, and of course you've got the legendary rivalry of Federer and Nadal, so potentially see both of those matches happen in the same tournament, something I'm very excited about. 6 minutes to 10 here on Sports Scene. Next fresh news update coming up at the top of the hour. Darren, we've got to shoot through. We've had plenty of netball over the last couple of weeks. Not a lot of time for it this week, though, but we will go through what's happening just quickly around the scene of netball.
Yeah, just quickly, games tonight. Logan Wildcats are playing the Tigers, and the Townsville Steel Cats are playing the Cougars. Both of those matches will be played at Cornubia in Sports. That's on Bryant's Road there, just at the back of Shayla Park State High School. Tigers, Lynx, Jaguars, Cougars make up your top four in the comp. Townsville Steel Cats, Brisbane Lions, Elite Development Squad, and the Wildcats make up the rest of the comp. ANZ Championship, Thunderbirds and Firebirds at the top of the ladder. Melbourne Vixens, Southern Steel, Waikato Bay of Plenty Magic, West Coast Fever, Central Pulse Tactics, New South Wales Swifts and the Northern Mystics. And our Firebirds this week play the Waikato Bay of Plenty Magic on the Gold Coast at the Convention and Exhibition Centre. Do yourself a favour, as the man with the hat used to say. Go and check it out. It's a great venue to watch ball sports like basketball and netball, and I've really enjoyed my times that I've been there. And I think they can take out the Magic in that match.
That's it. Thank you very much for that, Darren. Another thing we don't have a lot of time for this week, but we will dedicate time for in the coming weeks is the British and Irish Lions Tour, which kicks off very soon. It's crept up really quickly on us. June 5 is when the first game is. That'll be against the Western Force, against the British Lions. So not far away at all. This week, the Wallabies named a 25-man squad. 6 more players will be added to that squad on June 11, and that will be the final squad. Also, you can find out who the captain is there. The biggest talking point out of this, of course, it seems to be the biggest talking point whenever you bring up rugby union. Quade Cooper, he's been left out of the side. He's been left out of the 25-man squad at this stage. There is still time for him to force his way back into the team, but I think a lot of people would agree that it's a big call to leave out a guy. He's been in very good form for the Reds, who have been playing some good footy. But yeah, what are our thoughts on it? I think it's risky leaving him out, but the reasoning behind Robbie Deans' decision he's been strong on it. He's been solid behind it. He seems very sure of. He wants a guy that will defend well in the front line, and there's no question that the deficiency in Quade Cooper's game is his defence. Darren, what do you think?
Yeah, and you can't afford that against a team like the Lions coming up. You want to make sure that your defence is going to be absolutely spot on. Yeah, I give another guy a chance. Give another guy a chance, and we've seen some. I've seen some highlights the last couple of nights of some matches, and there's some good players out there at the moment.
There's some very good players. Christian Liliafano, one of the ones who's been called up great, a guy I'm a big fan of. James O'Connor's probably the guy who looks like he's going to be taking that number 10 jersey. I got to say to you, Ethan, the thing with the Wallabies last year, their biggest problem was they had an inability to score points, which is why, in my thinking, with Will Genia back to full fitness, with Quade Cooper, they're playing well again. The two of them can produce points, and if Australia need points, is there room to make him there, or do you have to make up for the fact and defence? Which way does it outweigh? Which way would you go?
Yeah, that's a good point. But just as a casual sort of rugby watcher, I'd much rather watch a Wallaby side with Quade Cooper in it than a Wallaby side without Quade Cooper in it. Like, it adds that. He's unpredictable, but it adds that extra element of an extra level of enticement to watch the match.
Sure.
I mean, the fact that he hasn't made the squad altogether, like, I can understand wanting to place an emphasis on defence, but in terms of picking him in the squad, put him on the bench, bring him on towards the end of a match. I mean, there's plenty of options there. The fact that he hasn't made it altogether is a bit surprising, really.
Well, he's still got a little bit of time to impress. There'll be a couple of Super Rugby games, and of course he's got the Reds game against the British Lions, that tour match. He will be playing in that before the June 11 day, where they will name the last 6 players, so there's still a chance of him being there. Also, a lot of talk leading into it. Israel Folau was selected in that 25-man squad, and I imagine he'll be on the wing for Australia coming up against the British Irish Lions, and I think that's a big in for the Wallabies. We're out of time here on Sports Scene, as we do every week. As a bit of a sign-off to the show, we'll give a sure thing tip, our tip for the weekend. Darren, I'll start with you. Who do you like this weekend?
German team will win the the Champions League this year, but I'm tipping that it's going to be a cracker of a match. I think 2-1 to Bayern Munich.
That's it. Ethan James, what's your tip for the weekend?
Sticking with the local Intrust Super Cup television match on Sunday afternoon, 2:00. I'm tipping the Tweedhead Seagulls to beat the Sunshine Coast down there at Piggabeen.
There we go. And I'm going to cheat and go with a couple. I'm going to go South Logan to beat Wynnum Manly in the Intrust Super Cup, and I'm also going to go Miami Heat to advance 4-0 in the NBA Finals as well, to the finals. And I think can't see the Heat getting beaten anytime soon. That's it for us here on Sports Scene. Great show this morning. Thanks to Des Morris. Thanks to Craig Miller for being guest on the show. Thanks to Craig Crowley for being with us. You have to leave early. Thanks to you, Darren. Thanks to you, Ethan, for being with us.